In today's episode, we are going to talk about podcast seasons. What are they, and is it something that you can do with your show? Welcome to Podcasting Tips and Tricks with Lyndall Harris, a show sharing quick, actionable tips, tricks, and advice to help you on your podcasting journey. Welcome back to another episode. It is awesome to have you back here, and I can't believe that we are in the first show of 2020. I did have a week off in between the Christmas and New Year break, as I had a bit of a break from work, and I had thought that perhaps I would publish one, but what can I say? The break got the better of me. I want to take this opportunity to say a very happy New Year to you all, and I hope that you had a wonderful festive break. But I also do want to acknowledge the heartache that so many Australians are feeling right now as we watch our country burning. It is just so devastating. I know I'm a real empath, and I know a lot of people are finding it really difficult to watch the media coverage right now. All the posts on social media, they really it's such a tragedy, and I just want to send my love out to anybody who has lost loved ones, their homes, and just everything, as well as all of the people in the houses, the beautiful Australian wildlife that has been lost. I think they estimated it at over 500 million. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all our servicemen and women, all the volunteers who are doing everything they can to help, because it really is such a sad time for our country, and we can only hope and pray that we get some rain soon or a changed weather event so that we can regain some control. So thank you for coming back and listening to yet another episode. If this is your first time here, then a big hello to you. My name is Lyndall Harris, and I am the host of this podcast brought to you by Podcast VA. If you've been listening for a little while, then welcome back. And you will know that I run an active Facebook group called the Australian Podcasters Collaborative. And if you listened to my last episode, you'll also know that I announced a new podcasting event to be held here in Sydney on the 4th of September 2020. It's called the Australian Podcasters Collaborative Live. And if you'd like to get some more information, head over to my website at podcastva.com and join the waitlist to be the first to know when tickets go on sale next month. So on to today's topic, which is all about podcast seasons and whether they are right for you or not. Firstly, let's talk about what is a podcast season. Well, it's basically breaking down your publishing schedule into blocks of episodes. So I'm sure you've listened to podcasts that publish their episodes in series or seasons. TV shows usually in seasons as well. So it's not really a new concept, but it's something that's becoming a lot more popular in podcasting these days. I know when I started in the podcasting industry supporting podcasters 3.5 years ago, most business podcasts were coming out on a consistent either fortnightly or weekly basis. But there weren't so many seasonal shows back then if we're talking about business podcasts. So you'll have seen the seasonal series style show in a lot of fiction podcasts, but that is actually starting to become more popular as well in business podcasts. But as we know, one of the best things with podcasting is that seasons can be really flexible. So you can choose whether you're going to go for 6 or 15 episodes or whatever number suits you. There are a number of different ways to look at seasons. It may be the publishing schedule, so a block of however many episodes you choose, or it may be a topic-based season. When you're thinking about starting your podcast, it can be extremely overwhelming. And I know when I speak to a lot of potential clients, I do mention that podcasting is possible in seasons, and I can almost hear a sigh of relief when they realize that they can approach it in a way that they're not having to do 52 episodes every single year on an ongoing basis. And it gives a lot of people a lot of peace of mind to know that they can break that down a little bit. Now, quite a lot of my podcast clients are doing seasons now, and I have to say quite a number of them do enjoy the process a little bit more because they find it less overwhelming. I do find that the clients who are either really great at getting ahead of the schedule and getting ahead of the game don't mind publishing on a weekly and fortnightly basis, but generally a lot of people are enjoying that, knowing that they've got however many episodes and then they've got a short break. Interestingly enough, with myself, I was toying with whether to do podcasting tips and tricks in seasons or not, or to make it an ongoing weekly show. And I did really enjoy having my week off at Christmas. So I have decided that I am also going to do podcasting tips and tricks as a seasonal show. Now, I've decided that I'm going to do 10 episodes and then have sort of 2 to 3 week break in between season and then come back. And I'm thinking I'll probably do 4 seasons per year, which will align roughly with the school holidays, because it has been a big juggle trying to get everything sorted with kids on holidays that don't want to go to vacation care anymore because they're slightly older, and trying to make sure that I get my podcast out consistently, as well as getting a lot of client work done as well. So yeah, I've decided to go down that path and see how that goes. Now, some different examples of how people are using seasons. I have clients who record them and then drip feed them on a weekly basis, which is how I will do podcasting tips and tricks moving forward. But I also have clients who record, say, for example, a 10 episode season and release it all at once. So there are different ways that you can look at it from that perspective, as well as you might decide to do a season of interviews, which might be, again, 8 to 10 episodes or however many episodes you choose. And then you might decide to do a season of solo shows, or perhaps even a season of case studies or interviewing your clients. So there's a whole lot of different ways that you can think about how seasons could work for your show. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to both as well. So the advantages are that you get that break from that consistent, constant, ongoing need to create content. You can tweak and improve things on your break. It gives you an opportunity to ask your audience if they'd like to see some change. You can break it down by topic if that suits your show. And you might find it a little easier to get sponsorship if you're going to a potential sponsor and asking them to sponsor just a certain number of shows in that season. The couple of disadvantages are you could lose motivation, and you obviously, that's probably a really good time to not take a break from your podcast as such. Maybe it's time to get ahead and batch and get ahead for the next season. But just be mindful that if you do have a bit of a break, you might just lose that motivation that you've got. And you might find it a little harder to grow an audience from scratch if you're starting a fresh podcast and you don't have an audience. So they're just a couple of the things that you can think about. You can find the show notes for this episode and all the other episodes on my website at podcastvA.com and by clicking on podcast in the navigation bar. Now, I have been actually receiving some really lovely reviews in Apple Podcast, and I am going to share some of these with you on some of my episodes. And as you know, sometimes it is a little confusing to know who you are from your iTunes name. So if it is you, reach out and let me know, and I'll include a link to your episode or your website in my show notes. So this week's is from Chantel B84, and Chantel says, love this podcast, always so value-packed in each episode. I learn so much. You can really tell that Lyndall cares about her community and wants them to get value. So good. Glad I found it. Thank you so much for that. And as I said, Chantel, reach out and I will put a link to your website or your podcast in the show notes as well. That's it for today's episode. If you would like to find out any more about the conference that I mentioned earlier or the Facebook group, make sure you head over to my website at podcastvA.com. Otherwise, I look forward to chatting to you again next week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe in your podcatcher so you don't miss an episode. And whilst you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave me a rating and review to help other podcasters.